If there's one thing I love, it's side-scrolling beat-em-ups. It's no secret, I've been proudly proclaiming my fondness for the genre that Double Dragon built from the top of the mountain that is Hey Poor Player for nearly a decade now. So, when indie studio MakinGames and publisher Team17 first unveiled Raging Justice, a brawler heavily inspired by such genre heavyweights as Final Fight and Streets of Rage, you better believe I was more than a little bit excited to get my hands on the game. After all, there's nothing quite as satisfying as teaming up with a friend to deliver brutal vigilante justice against waves of murderous street punks as you crack skulls with lead pipes and smash phone booths in search of that succulent, life-sustaining street turkey. The story here is simple. The mayor of Big Smoke City has been kidnapped by an evil gang of criminals. Now, it's up to 3 seasoned brawlers to take on the violent syndicate and rescue him before it's too late. Each character has their own fighting style that makes them better suited for certain situations. Rick, for example, is an old-school cop who fights dirty, delivering a solid balance of speed and damage. The fearsome ex-soldier Nikki, on the other hand, is slower than Rick, but she hits like a truck. Lastly, the 15-year-old Street Fighter Ash may not hit as hard as the rest of the team, but he strikes with lethal speed, making him a good stick-and-move kind of character. If you've ever played a beat-em-up before, you'll feel right at home here as you punch, kick, and body slam waves of goons in various urban environments like graffiti-filled ghettos and hazard-loaded construction sites. The controls are easy enough to master, with the face buttons allowing you to execute punches, kicks, jumps, grabs, and combos. It's all really straightforward by the numbers stuff. However, Raging Justice does do something a bit unique by allowing you to arrest dizzied baddies. Arresting enemies always rewards you with a health power-up, which certainly comes in handy as Raging Justice delivers one hell of a challenge, even when played on the game's default difficulty setting. This leads me to one of Raging Justice's biggest issues, the game's lopsided difficulty. I love a solid challenge when it's done right. However, the difficulty here stems more from a lack of proper balancing than anything else. For example, enemies can juggle you indefinitely with projectiles from the edge of the screen, and will do so pretty often over the course of the game's campaign. When fighting gangs of foes, it's not uncommon to lose control of your character for a long period of time as you're pummeled and bounced around the screen with little recourse. To make matters worse, even the most basic hoodlum can break combos right out of the gate, leaving you open for a bruising. And don't get me started on the dogs. Oh, the dogs. These 4-legged foes can only be dispatched with a kick or explosives. This means you'll frequently have to toss away whichever weapon you're holding whenever they appear so that you can kick them away before they latch onto your legs and leave you completely defenseless. While all of these issues are frustrating enough, bosses are by far the worst offenders in Raging Justice. Most of them can only be attacked during a very short window of time before they begin a phase of invulnerability, often while being assisted by limitless waves of reinforcements. There were a few occasions where this caused the boss encounter to last longer than the stage itself. Suffice it to say, moments like this turn what could have been an otherwise entertaining brawler into a repetitive slog. This is a shame too, because there are times when Raging Justice can be quite fun. Running over punks with a riding mower or splattering them against a wall with a swing of a baseball bat like Rick in Splatterhouse 2 is super satisfying. But these flashes of joy are short-lived, especially when the game's otherwise unpolished elements throw an unwelcome wrench into the machinery. When it comes to presentation, Raging Justice doesn't try to hide the fact its roots are firmly planted in the golden era of the 16-bit genre. Sure, plenty of retro-inspired titles wear their inspiration proudly on their sleeves, but in this case, it's been done to the point of parody. Everything, and I mean everything, from the hulking pre-rendered sprites that were first popularized in the twilight hour of the 16-bit days, to the massive words like extreme and brutal that splash across the screen when you pummel your foes with a baseball bat or a samurai sword, all pack the subtlety of a lead pipe to the base of the skull. While the Clay Fighter-esque sprites look decent in screenshots, in-motion things start to fall apart a bit. The animations are awkward and choppy, and they really lack any sense of fluidity, almost as if they were stop-motion models. It's honestly a bit like watching the props from a Tool video come to life and engage in a drunken brawl, only instead of being accompanied by face-rocking tunes like Schism or Sober, each bout unfolds to the music left on the cutting room floor of Action 52 on the Sega Genesis. It's enough to make Yuzo Koshiro cry. You can almost imagine Raging Justice's development was the byproduct of some dark seance where husband and wife developers Nick and Anna Makin painted a neon pentagram on the floor of their studio and lined it with cans of Surge, slap bracelets, and starter jackets, and then lit them all ablaze in hopes of summoning the spirit of the 90s. The end result, sadly, feels more like a caricature of the era that inspired the game, rather than a sincere act of homage. If you overcome the challenge, Raging Justice is a quick burn. Plowing through the game's campaign can be done in about an hour. However, each mission does have a wealth of challenges to complete. Challenging challenges that will keep completionists coming back for more. There's also an additional brawl mode that allows you to choose a fighter and beat back wave after wave of baddies. It'll keep you busy. As a lifelong fan of the beat-em-up genre, I really wanted to like Raging Justice. It's just a shame the game just misses the mark in so many areas. Because with a bit more polish and refinement, it could have been a really solid cooperative brawler. Unfortunately, the uneven production values and sloppy mechanics keep it from rising above mediocrity. The final result is a game that shows flashes of promise, punctuated by long stretches of frustration. In the end, Raging Justice proves that catering to nostalgia alone isn't a recipe for surefire success. Still, if you've absolutely starved for a beat-em-up, and you've already had your fill of Dragon's Crown Pro or Streets of Red Devil's Dare Deluxe, you might find an afternoon's worth of fun to be had. Just know that there are much better alternatives available.